I think although we're on opposite ends of the political spectrum, I think Krishna and I think very much alike in terms of how we approach talking to people and messaging to people. The first thing that I would say is, you know, I'm astounded the number of times people come to us and, you know, if you want to get engagement on a peer-to-peer text, ask someone a question. You can't expect them to respond to you if you don't ask them something. You know, so we focus a lot on personalization, making sure, yes, it's important to use people's first names, but it's also good if you can use the name of their town or how much they donated before if it's a fundraising appeal, or their voting location if you're trying to get them out to vote. We've done a lot of work with MMS, with GIFs, with images, with MP4 videos. We actually, this, if it's okay, this actually, I have a few examples of this, which I'll show in just a second. We had a candidate for a county office, and this is a person who never in his life would have been on broadcast TV, running in a primary that was in the first week of June, and obviously the guy can't go door to door, he can't have any events, and he's not going to be on broadcast TV. Well, the guy stood in front of his fireplace with his wife, his wife holding an iPhone, and the guy recorded a 20-second message. We sent it to every voter in both parties in his rural county, and the response he had on this was absolutely amazing. So all of a sudden you have people who don't think they can do, quote, a commercial, doing a commercial because they're doing a 20-second MP4 on their phone. And we're not talking about super polished stuff. We're really talking about things that are authentic and straight from the heart. It was the kind of appeal he would have given if he was able to go door to door in a normal time. And then last but not least, we've worked with, in our testing, quite a bit with long messages and short messages. And does making the message longer help? Does, you know, does making the message shorter help? What kind of abbreviations can you get away with that people will still understand before you're texting like you're a 15-year-old and those of us who are old enough to vote don't understand what you're talking about? Actually, I've got a couple examples of it real quick. I guess I call them the 4 do's of peer-to-peer texting. And the first was asking a question to get results. If you don't ask people something, they really can't respond to you. So, you know, messages that say, your gift will be 600x matched, you haven't responded, and have no personalization in them and no call to action. I think that those are meant for volume and not necessarily for the quality of the response. And when people respond to you, you should respond back to them. And to me, that applies whether you're hiring someone, you're hiring a firm to do this, or you have your volunteers doing it. The second thing is watching out for abbreviations. I think that if it's a number or it's something that you can pronounce, it will make sense. But if it gets, you know, we've got some good examples and bad examples, and when it goes too far and your voter isn't going to understand it, that's when, you know, if the person can't understand your message, if they don't understand your abbreviations, that's really when you've gone too far. Using MMS to tell a richer story, that's actually the iPhone video that I was telling you about. Again, it's not a production quality video, but it's exactly what what someone who is running for county office would authentically tell you if they could tell you their story in person. And this thing will play, but I think we'll just go on to the next because we can't hear the sound. And then the last one that I wanted to mention is using double MMS to make your message longer. A standard SMS can be 160 characters, and you can send an SMS message that is longer than 160 characters, but you do run the risk that the carriers will deliver your message either concatenated properly, like this one is, or it may come across in the wrong order, or maybe segments 1 and 3 get delivered and segment 2 just gets lost in the ether. And so you run a lot of risks when you send very long SMS messages, but you can actually do a longer message that will not get broken up like that if you use an MMS. And I paired it with a picture of the most beautiful dog in the world just for effect. So those were just a few examples of things that have worked for us on the message side, and just a way to give people a visual of what they look like. So I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Yeah, yeah. Nicole made a really good point. What you don't want to do is run afoul of the cell carriers and have a situation where your one part of your message gets dropped, or your failure rate explodes because you're trying to send something that's a meg and a half. The cell companies are all running all kinds of algorithms all the time, and it's a real cat and mouse game to figure out what gets through and what doesn't. We play with that all the time.